Hey, what's up, everyone? We're here. We're with the JumpStart BFR Experience podcast, and we're excited to get going. I'm Chris Richardson. I'm lead designer for all training programs and training content development. And with me here today,
I am Omer Elias. I am the Chief Medical Officer, kind of here to answer any questions about some of the science and application.
yeah, so getting first started in BFR, when it comes down to it, my biggest thing when I first got introduced was all in the clinical setting, right? Just physical therapy, trying to get athletes healthy again, trying to get them to kind of bounce back and not lose some of the mechanical strength or gains that they developed all the way through the season just because they have an achy hamstring or twisted an ankle or something. And for me, getting started with it, I really was able to see quick results, and it was a lot of fun because like a lot of athletes thought it was like track magic. That's what they ended up calling it, right? It's like I remember a couple young ladies were like, "Coach Richard, this is like track magic," because they were able to bounce back. The science I got behind it, and I want to know what you think about it. The one initially, what kind of caught my eye is allowing these signals to develop so that we can get oxygenated red blood cells to help with the immune response and really kind of kickstart the healing process. And just how I initially envisioned it was more like, all right, your body's asking for red blood cells and some of these other things that are going to help with the healing process, all these enzymes and proteins, and we're restricting it while doing some range of motion. And that's where I kind of got off the flossing, but we'll probably go into that a little bit later. But then with releasing the pressure through the ischemic settings or whatever the case may be in the rush of red blood cells, you want to go more into that? Like what is your intake?
Yeah, so we can go into that in a little bit. So basically that was kind of how you first got started into it. Mine was, I was actually at a conference for American Medical Society for Sports Medicine, and kind of was just going through there, and it was the first time I kind of saw these machines, and I got to kind of try it out and putting it on first. I didn't completely understand what it was. I was just like, oh, this looks interesting. Got home and kind of looked up the science, and what was even more interesting was kind of forgot about it. A couple months went by, and shut down COVID, and everyone's trying to figure out like how to work out, and I kind of came across it, looked into the science a little bit, and I was with a doc who's orthopedic sports medicine and had a conversation with him about it, and he was kind of like, I was picking his brain a little bit, and he was kind of telling me about like systemic changes, not just, because people think, okay, I'm putting this up on my arms or my legs, and those are the muscles that they're targeting. And that's when I was kind of introduced that, hey, this is not just hitting those muscles, but you're going to get other benefits. So that was very interesting for me, and that's kind of how I got kind of took the deeper dive into it.
Yeah, when you say other benefits, one thing I noticed with like using arm cuffs or like arm occlusion was the impact it can have on your shoulder. Right? Like that's
Exactly.
where, like being able to help with relieving mechanical load and some of the stress development and, really allowing your body to kind of go through what we would consider like 30% RM of like maxes. I also saw like there were some individuals that did it like pre-op. And were able to kind of allow themselves to do some, prehab before surgery, that then at post-surgery, when they're going through the rehab, they're able to bounce back a lot quicker. So that was pretty interesting. But from, kind of getting deep in some of the biochem stuff about it, but what are some of the other healing factors, like in terms of like when that red blood cell replenishment comes through, when you're getting some of the like myogenic responses, not just the stem cell kind of growth, but like...
So yeah, you're going to have the red blood cell response, but when I was talking more systemic changes and other things that are getting released there, that's things like growth hormone. You got satellite cells, and that's nutrient support and neurotransmission. Another thing that you'll see that comes up is heat shock proteins. Now, there were some doctors and a lot of people were getting into what heat shock proteins do, and then ways to kind of enhance that, response in your body. And that comes through things like sauna, kind of intense like heat or cold. And the cool thing about these heat shock proteins is that they are kind of helping with folding and aggregation, along with like targeting misfolded proteins and then kind of degrading those. So it's it's a little bit of a cellular cleanup.
Yeah.
And and you'll get that with acute stress responses. So
Yeah, and I think that's one big thing I'm excited about is the getting people to get started on it, and just like the average Joe, you know, kind of getting the weekend warrior or the individual that's on any kind of fitness journey, and excited to kind of see them kind of at least get through that 21-day hump, you know, you know, that point of no return, because once you make it a habit and you kind of get used to it, that's what I'm excited to see, is just kind of some individuals utilizing it in their day-to-day training programs, and being able to take advantage of the fact that it's going to help them, you know, get that metabolic response that they're probably not used to. And when that happens, you actually see results and actually feel results probably a little quicker than a traditional, you know, training program. But what would you say behind that? Like, what is some of your perspective with that? Just because for me, I'm thinking that like people might feel it and get excitement in the beginning and might think it's more of a, you know, placebo kind of thing, versus like true metabolic response and like this like real thing going on.
As far as like the placebo thing, for specifically for BFR, I mean, the science has already kind of has shown that it's working.
Yeah.
So that's the good thing, that, you know, placebo, I'm not really too worried about that. And I just like the fact that it can be incorporated into any type of like training protocol. You know, in the beginning when I kind of got into it, it was more related to the rehab kind of setting. And what was exciting was, oh, we can apply this in multiple places. And so just kind of seeing how to make, putting together like training protocols for different athletes for me, it was a no-brainer.
Yeah.
And also, you know, everyone's looking for that biohack, you know, how can I shorten what I'm doing, or how can I get the most bang for my buck? And this, I feel like BFR is kind of the way to go, especially for me. I mean, I've been traveling since, I don't even know how many months it's been. And I've had a kit of my own.
Traveling? You've been COVID
Yeah,
traveling?
COVID travel. So I've been, you know, working at different hospitals around the country. And I got, you know, I'm blessed that I did not get COVID. So thank God for that. But, you know, also I was staying on top of just trying to exercise and trying to stay healthy, because, you know, one thing people forget is exercise is medicine. You know, everyone thinks, oh, I need these pills, I need that. Or some people are just like, hey, I don't like the fact that I'm getting prescribed this. Well, exercise is great prescription. It's the best way to keep you healthy. So
what I'm looking for now is like getting those individuals that have never worked out before and trying to get them to trust and understand the importance of like, or how BFR can help them, and how JumpStart can be part of that kickstart to that journey.
Yeah.
What I look at is like, okay, that first program, I think one thing we've been talking a lot about is just being okay with periodizing and developing and tapering into more occlusive pressures. There's a lot of criticism out there with like ideal pressures, but I think because a lot of the stuff I've been reading is, you know, that qualitative information versus the quantitative, in the sense that people are feeling the intensity of the workout and it's kind of getting them, right? It's like they're like, oh no, I don't want to feel this level of intensity. I don't want to feel that burn, because especially, and that's why I think it's a little bit easier for trained elite athletes or individuals that are used to intense workloads, that have been in that world before and know what it feels like to have that true metabolic, or that pump. But you know, individuals that have never felt that, that's uncomfortable.
Yeah.
So
exactly.
that's why I think it's great for us, you know, with our JumpStart protocol, is to have those tapering levels of like occlusion and pressures. So like, what is your insight on that? Because I know there is a lot of criticism with having certain pressures, but I feel that I think it's just as important for somebody to feel comfortable.
Yeah. So, you know, it's, you know, for these elite athletes, if you ask them, hey, I've been doing BFR training, and it's not easy, you know, and of course they're using much higher pressures than most average people will. The good thing about it is that, you know, I'm always a start small guy and work your way up. I'm in it for kind of the longevity and trying to do it as long as I can, and always keep movement. So if you start out slow and work your way up, I don't see any issue with that. I don't have any problem with that. Now, people who do criticize it, when they think of tourniquets, they're thinking of, you know, those tourniquets that were adding to people like hemorrhaging.
You're talking about like full occlusion.
Full occlusion, like, you know, trauma situations.
Yeah.
So, you know, tourniquet, that's first thing someone thinks of. Hey, someone got shot, someone got stabbed. This is very, we're dialing it into certain pressures that, we're not trying to hurt anybody.
For us, getting like those lower pressures, getting used to it, learning how to integrate it into your current training plan. Like there's a lot of people that already have a personal trainer or have their Peloton and they have the routine already set. How do you use BFR or how do you use our JumpStart system if you already got a rhythm going? I think it can only supplement it and enhance it.
Supplement it, enhance it. And the great thing is it doesn't matter what kind of protocol you put together or what type of training you're doing. I think it could be added into anything. We did have a meeting the other day and someone asked, well, I'm a surfer. Can I use it? And I think they were thinking, can I surf with this on? If you really wanted to, you could. I don't see how that can be that beneficial. But outside of the water, all the training that you're doing, getting into it, of course, you can add it to anything. Peloton, your biking. Of course, just throw that in there. And, we talked about this before was kind of those active recovery days, putting that in there, still getting a response, like a muscular response without overtaxing the body. And I think that's very important. A lot of people think, I need to go hard all the time. I need to be sore. That's not necessarily, it depends on what your goals are, but I don't think that's necessarily should be what everyone's trying to achieve. You can get more bang for your buck without punishing yourself.
Because you brought up surfers, and when I was looking at, because one of my first missions, going with JumpStart and getting everything going, especially developing the training protocols, is looking at its impact on VO2 max, because they documented that with, rowers and cyclists, but they also showed a great deal of benefits in big wave surfers, because there are times where they have to hold their breath for long periods of time. So they do this systemic protocol where they go 5 minutes on, 3 minutes off, 5 minutes on before they go out. And they found that, in terms of all likelihood, when it comes to, being like full water submersion, being, holding your breath and actually being in oxygen debt because of some of the more, I guess, anaerobic capacity, you have to immediately go. I'm not a big wave surfer, so I don't know all the details of it, but you have to exert yourself. And then if you're underwater for a long period of time, you're in oxygen debt physiologically, right? But then now you have to literally hold your breath to save your own life.
Yeah.
And so they saw a great deal of impact, more from a qualitative standpoint, or psychologically, they kind of felt better doing it. And so that was really cool to see. So, I mean, I thought that was pretty interesting. So we'll probably have to touch on that, that article on a future podcast. Yeah. So, being excited about, I kind of going in before people getting started on it, the 3-week protocols. When we look at our membership site, we do have a lot of workouts and a lot of training programs. The big thing we've been talking about lately is not just the tapering into the pressures for those that might not be used to it and the intensity of it.
Yeah.
But I remember being on a phone call with one of our perks package people and talking about the amount of stress post-workout. Because I remember in traditional training, all mechanical lifting and workouts, you have a certain amount of soreness that's kind of achy. But I've noticed with JumpStart, our level of soreness is more of a swelling versus that achy.
Exactly. More of a swelling, and the feeling you get after doing a hard workout without the achiness is how I would describe it to kind of in layman's terms. So, it's definitely it's a different feeling, because usually these people, or your very trained athletes, are, hey, I just beat up my body pretty bad and now I got to, recover for this long. And this is a different feeling, but they know that, hey, I've just put in a lot of work, and they still feel like it's not like a waste of a workout or anything like that.
Yeah. And I've been seeing and experiencing a lot of results with the integration protocols, because the traditional Katsu methods of, the 75 reps where you go 30 on or 30 reps, which is theoretically supposed to be to failure, but then you go 30 seconds rest, 15, then another 30 seconds rest and 15, right? And continue that for 4 sets. But what I've noticed is that even if you're doing a hypertrophy training, that you're lifting semi-high loads, but to a lower degree in terms of reps and sets based on volume, that you're still able to get what I would consider that pump or some of the more metabolic swelling of all the tissues because of the impact of the cell membrane and things like that.
Yeah.
So, I mean, what would you say when it comes to the more like muscle growth components that someone might feel?
So the mechanisms that are kind of getting hit here are this pathway called the Mtor Pathway. Anyways, that's going to stimulate, things that activate that is mechanical stimulation, IGF-1, amino acids, growth factors. So you're kind of hitting that, and that's where you're kind of getting that cellular metabolism and growth. So that's kind of what's getting hit there. And then when it comes to the cellular swelling, some people were asking, okay, well, how does that work? So basically with this occlusion, what's happening is it's also restricting the venous blood flow back. So in these muscles, you're getting that burn, which is caused by the accumulation of these metabolites. And through the osmolarity, kind of that process, what happens is once new blood rushes in, since you have all those metabolites still around and in those muscles, it forces that fluid back in there, and you're going to get that swelling. Now, what they have been seeing is that people who are, out of training for a while, whether it be from injury or just, life happens, your cells actually have a reduced ability to swell. So with this swelling, it keeps it kind of in that cycle of going, back and forth and still getting those changes.
So yeah, because I just think about the Arnold Schwarzenegger, like he did his big documentary, right? Getting pumped or pumping iron or something like that. And
he was before his time, because he would always talk about, hey, let's get that pump. And now it's shown that, okay, so this pump is from that cellular swelling. And if you talk to people who weightlift a lot, you gotta finish a workout before you start getting kind of that pump. Sometimes maybe you could do it in the beginning, but usually it's at the end. The cool thing about this is I can get that in a few minutes.
It would take a long time. But so that kind of wraps up our topic for the day. I love the fact that anybody can start it, anyone at any time, no matter what you're doing. I really look forward to seeing some of the results that from the workouts and prehab stuff that I'm giving some of my buddies that have either gone through knee surgery or going through knee surgery. So I'm really interested about that. So I look forward to maybe even bringing them on or at least talking about their story in future podcasts. But other than that, we're wrapped up. I'm excited. And if there are any questions, make sure you guys are reaching out to us. If there are any topic ideas, anything you guys want to cover, we're open to it. And that's about it for today.